Hey y'all, welcome back to Sitting with Ashley and Ashley. This is a collective convo. We're going to talk about the importance of honest, consistent, truthful communication, especially when we're building community to fight back against the system. Healthy communication. So first, let's talk about how communication is a thing. All right, let me draw a pic. Shit. Where are my fucking dry erase mark? Oh, here's one. Alright, my bachelor's is in communication. But that was a really long time ago. There's person A and there's person B. So we're gonna talk about just one-on-one interpersonal communication quickly. Okay? I don't know my textbooks. Okay. Person A says something to person B. Have you guys ever heard that saying, people can only meet you as far as they've met themselves? So person A says something to person B. Person B has no fucking clue what this person motherfucking said. Okay? They said something that they've never heard before. And they're like, what? They don't understand. No comprehension. Okay? So person A gets mad. What do you mean you don't understand? Person B is still like, more question marks. I don't know what you said, bro. Okay? And then punches are fucking thrown. Alright? This is what not to do. Okay? What? People can only understand you as far as they understand you. And I think that's something that's very important to remember, especially when building community. One of the laws of organizing is meeting people where they're at. Okay? So, when there are disagreements, when there are miscommunications, when there are inconsistencies, when there are lies, all of that reduces trust. Trust is very important when we're building any sort of interpersonal relationship. Okay? We want person A and person B to be buds, because everybody is a resource. Even though person B didn't quite understand what person A said, person B has their own skill set. They are capable of many things. They just might not be the same as person A. So, how do we bridge those gaps? We use our ears and our phones. We can look up any information we want. If we're having a conversation with someone, we want the conversation to be reciprocal, over and over and over again, until we reach a point where it can't be, which we already talked about at the beginning. We want it to be like a ping pong game, okay? Person A says something, person B says something, person B says something to person A responds, okay? That's the point of communication. Now, when we are in community in these times, there's a lot of factors that can equal distrust with good reason. One of those being political views. I don't need to write that down. We already know the current climate here in the United States is what I'm talking about, but this doesn't isn't just the United States. Fuck. However, the United States is an important place because as we are experiencing I am horrible at spelling. As we are, we're here now. Collectivism. There are two different ways of existing predominantly in the world. One is individualism and one is collectivism. Individualism is very Western thinking, very egocentric, supremacist, elite thinking. Very rat race, very competitive. Okay, this is the way of the United States and other West countries. Israel is a good example of this as well. Israel is not in the West. They are taking over the Middle East. Yes, we know. But the people who are claiming to be indigenous to the land of Palestine, who are Israeli or Zionist, are actually from the West. European. West is European. So there's the West and then there's the global South. The West is Europe. They're colonizers. So France, Spain, United States, Canada, which technically was colonized by France. But anyway, and then those countries, those are the West. So those are very individualistic, capitalistic countries. Okay? And then you have collectivism, which are what we're seeing in Palestine. Indigenous folks. I always spell indigenous folks. Indigenous folks, and also a lot of Asian cultures. I think Japan specifically, but I'm not positive. I mean, Asians are indigenous to Asia, so that falls under the indigenous umbrella. But collectivism is more about group, okay? Have you guys seen some of those videos coming out of China where, like, the kids all do the same exercise and stuff together, and it looks very, like, it looks a little bit military, but the point of that is to level the playing field in, like, a very real way. Recognizing that everyone is a resource, everyone has skills and things, and while everyone is different, there's a common ground, common goal, common collective, okay? My channel over here, we talk about this word. Hate commercials, shut the fuck up. So we talk about collective liberation all the time. Collective is the root word of collectivism. So collectivism is just a way of being in more group community setting. Something that here in the United States we're not good at. That's why we're having this conversation about, first of all, we can't even communicate with each other. It's pretty fucked up. So I think some of the problems that can arise when we are building community, again, we're meeting people where they're at. Oh shit, do I have that shit today? Most people here in the United States want to fight immediately when presented with any sort of factoid is the word coming, that challenges their own understanding at this point. So another important part of communication, effective communication, is also the ability and desire to grow, to understand others. If you don't have that, I highly recommend working on that. Point of this is that in these times, as we watch what's happening, I think often about how it's going to be when the United States does pop off, either by an outside attack or within, which we're kind of already experiencing. The police are this combat force against the people. Free speech has been alleviated. We don't really have that anymore. I just saw the pigs pulling off like 2 kafiyas off of people protesting. So instead of, I mean, today, I'm talking about this today as there's like huge national marches happening here in the United States, which is great. That's a great place to start. But the response to protests is pretty dull and null. You know, there's nothing really coming from them except more militarized infrastructure and laws, okay? So what we need to do is make the system obsolete by building community, by being in collectivist spaces with each other, okay, on the ground. Remember, organize locally, network globally. And I think Palestine is a really great place, if nothing else, since we haven't been able to stop what's happening to them. We need to learn from them. We need to learn how to look out for each other. We need to learn how to be our brothers and sisters' keepers. We need to learn how to put our own egos aside and come together in a space of community. And we need to do so without expecting anything in return. Because what we're fighting for is collective liberation. And we need to put our own needs aside in order to put the needs of the most oppressed at the forefront and organize around that, okay? So start practicing conversation, start practicing listening, start practicing compassion, thinking about the ways you wish others would hear you. And I feel like a lot of the times we don't listen to people or we don't hear them because of the way that we've been treated. And the challenge is to do the opposite, okay? Just because shit has been done to you doesn't mean that you need to become what was done to you. In contrary to that, very high level felt belief, we need to actually do the opposite. When something shitty happens to us, we need to be like, whoa, damn, okay. So this just happened to me, and I remember that one time, 10 years ago, that happened to that other person, and I was such a heartless bitch about that, and damn, I feel really bad. Okay, that's called reflection, and that's a really important part of communication as well. When we have miscommunications, or no communication, there's really a lack of trust can feather. There can become a fucking lack of trust. When we're building community, when we are trying to make these systems obsolete by coming together, by pooling our own resources amongst each other, by looking out for our neighbors, that's how we can build trust, right? And again, doing so without expecting anything in return is a very highly aspected part of healing, okay? When you're able to do that, you have healed immensely with whatever has happened to you. But I think that we should really start practicing healthy, consistent, trustworthy communication with each other if we want to build networks outside of the system. And I hate to tell you, but it's probably a little bit already too late for that. So highly, highly recommend practicing this. Looking out for your neighbors. And there are going to be plenty of people who run and, throw people under the bus. Those are not our people. The United States is coming up on civil war. I mean, we're already in civil war, but I think the actual martial law is going to be declared pretty soon. We'll see how today goes. So take this time, if you still have tax money, start investing in some things that can be beneficial to your community. The high schoolers asked for like little Purells or like little hand sanitizers last week when I was talking to them. And so I got those for them, and I got them like little like first aid kits and shit for their backpacks. Think about the impact of the things that you can do and carry that out. But communication is a very important tool for our collective liberation. And as much as we want to communicate, listening is also as equally important within that. Okay? Have a good one.